Hi, and welcome to High School Football Friday. This is our Week 5 edition of High School Football Friday. We have a full slate of games on Friday night. 5 area teams playing in 5 different places. We're going to have 2 games that are played locally. Fauquier is at Millbrook, and Hedgesville is at James Wood. And on the road, we have Clark County at Washington. We have Hanley at Kettle Run, and Sharando's at Liberty. First off, we'll talk a little bit about the Fauquier and Millbrook game. Rob will talk about that one.
Faulkner's coming off of 4 straight losing seasons, and they had a bye last week. They've lost to Loudoun County in Dominion. Their only win was against Brentsville, and looks like they're struggling a little bit on offense so far through their first 3 games. They're only averaging 12 points per game, and they're giving up 25 on defense. Millbrook's really been playing well, scoring a lot of points. So when they're facing a team that's only averaging about 12 points per game, it's probably going to be a pretty tough matchup for the Falcons. Millbrook can hurt you in a lot of different ways with Savon Smith at running back, who really erupted for his biggest game of the season with 5 TDs and a 62-34 win over TA last year. And he had 170 yards rushing coming in, and he bettered that total against TA last week. So he's still an explosive player. They just have a lot of playmakers around him this year, so it doesn't always have to be Salon kind of carrying the load with Isaac Brown at quarterback, and Gavin Search has really contributed to the receiving and rushing. Pioneers should probably be a pretty tough matchup for the Falcons, I would think, heading into Friday.
Next up is James Wood hosting Hedgesville. Hedgesville's 3-1 so far. Wood is 2-2. Coming off a 35-8 loss to Warren County last week. Hedgesville is a spread out offense. Their quarterback, Jason Plotner, has a lot of receivers, and he's thrown to a lot of them this year. He threw 2 touchdown passes last week. The previous week, he actually threw for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns in a win. The Colonels. Coach Ryan Morgan, he expects them to face a defense that's going to be putting as many as 9 players or 10 players in the box to try to stop the Colonel's running attack. That means that quarterback Mike Zebarth is going to have to look for some targets to throw to. Running back William Crowder, who's the Colonel's top ground gainer, left last week's game with an injury. Coach Morgan says he may not be available this week, so the Colonels may have to look to a number of different players to carry the ball. Next up is Clark County at Washington.
It's Clark County, has really been putting up a lot of offense this year, and last week was no exception. Peyton Rutherford rushed for a career high 344 yards, scored 5 touchdowns, and I think he had 32 carries in that win over Waynesboro. And the offensive line's really done a great job with opening holes for Peyton Rutherford, and he's only a sophomore, but he really doesn't seem to mind all the carries, and he's definitely doing a great job in that single wing offense. They're going to be facing a Patriot team that has struggled a lot over the past couple seasons. They've actually lost 23 straight coming into this one, and they're 0-4 this year. It's a homecoming game for the Patriots, and it's also a homecoming game for Parker, who was a standout at Jefferson and a graduate at Jefferson. So be going back to his hometown almost. So, but yeah, Clark's definitely been rolling this year.
Next up is Hanley 2-2 at Kettle Run, a surprising 4-0 to start this season. Hanley's coming off a 40-0 win over Skyline on homecoming for the Judges this past Saturday. Kettle Run has scored already in 4 games more points than it had all of last season. Maybe the record is a little bit deceptive though. Because the teams that they've played so far are combined 2-13. The Judges had a huge day on the ground last week. Christian Moten ran for 6 touchdowns and 253 yards against Skyline. The Judges will want to move the ball on the ground again. So it should be an interesting one against an unbeaten team in the Northwestern District. Last up is Sharando at Liberty. This is a pair of 4-0 teams that are going against each other. Apparently, a few years ago, they used to pretty much see each other twice a year, once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. Sharando has been outstanding offensively throughout the entire season. They're getting it done in every facet of the game. Hunter Ensminger is coming off a 4-touchdown game throwing, quarterback Hunter Ensminger. Running back TJ Washington has 12 TDs this year. Wide receiver Aaron Banks caught 2 of the touchdown passes last week. He also scored on a kickoff return and an interception return. So this one should be a matchup of 2 of the best teams in the Northwestern District. That'll do it for this week. We ask you to follow us on Twitter at WinStar Sports 1 for live updates from the games, and we'll be back with you next week.